Here are 15 of the best Ask Reddit stories for today. I hope you enjoy and remember to subscribe. It really helps us out. We post new videos every day.
What made you realize someone you knew was actually completely fucked in the head? Went out hunting. While we were taking a break, he pointed a rifle at my head, paused, and pulled the trigger. It wasn't loaded. I left and never went anywhere with him again.
What's a secret you will take to the grave but don't mind telling on the internet? When I was 7, my dad was dating this woman and they seemed pretty happy. But she had a son who would molest me for months in my own room and eventually lead to him raping me. If I was to have told anyone, that would break up our parents, and I didn't want my dad to be sad, so I just took it. Every year I write my parents a Christmas card signed by Sarah and Michael. They still have no idea who they are and spend a lot of Christmas Day trying to figure it out. When I was a kid, I used to sleep in a tire in the garden because I was scared of getting locked in the toilet. My mother is cheating on my father and my father is cheating on my mother. They both know I know this but made me promise not to tell the other parent. Parents are feeped up sometimes. What's your secret? Comment below. What's the creepiest thing that you've seen other families do that they accept as totally normal? I went to this guy's house once after school. I wasn't friends with him, but we were assigned to a project together. We'll call him Gary. Anyways, we were working on this project when he excused himself to use the restroom. 15 minutes later he returned. A little while later, I decided to use the restroom while he was making snacks. I walked into the bathroom and behold, before my eyes, floating like a manatee through the brown estuaries of Florida, was the result of Gary's earlier bathroom excursion. I shrugged it off. I mean, we all forget at least once, right? Flushed for him, took a leak, flushed again, and went to work on the project. Gary's mom gets home from work a couple hours later. She nods to us and says hello politely before heading towards the back of the house. A few seconds later she returns to the kitchen where we were working and screams, "Where is it?" I jump and I'm confused, so I shoot a WTF look to Gary. Gary muttered, "It wasn't me, it was the Cosmic Costa." His mom glared at me, huffed, and walked out. Gary later explained that every day after school he would take a dump and was required to leave it in the toilet so his mom could check it. He wasn't even size of Reddit. Why did you reject the pretty girl? I accidentally turned down a girl I had a massive crush on in middle school. I'd convinced myself she was the one I was going to end up with, marry, etc. Turns out she actually liked me too, and her brother would literally walk past me at school and yell, "My sister likes you." But I just assumed he was trolling me or something. Well, one day we were on the train home after school and her friend suddenly and mysteriously disappeared to another carriage, leaving her and I alone together. She asked, "Hey, I was wondering, do you have a crush on me?" as she leaned in hopefully for my answer. How did I react to this situation? I started rummaging through my school backpack pretending I was looking for something, and changed the subject to some dumb thing that my brother did on the weekend. She leaned back in her seat and looked visibly disappointed. Now why did I do this, you ask? Because I'd heard the statistics of how unlikely relationships were to last if they started at that age. So I told myself we weren't ready yet. I was going to wait 5 more years until we left school before I made my move, because then it would last, I told myself. Of course, I waited so long that she eventually lost interest and we drifted away. Yeah, teenage me had some strange idea.
What leaked sex tape would completely break the internet? Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. Scarlett Johansson and Elizabeth Olsen. Maybe the Pope. Eater. OMG guys, I just thought of the perfect partner. Ramzan Kadyrov as the obvious bottom. If Emilia Clarke, Scarlett Johansson, Kerry Washington, and Margot Robbie had a sleepover gone wild, I bet we'd never hear the end of it. Queen Elizabeth. Kermit and Miss Piggy. Danny DeVito doing Ariana Grande. So anyway, I start blasting. Deadpool and Wolverine. I can see Ryan Reynolds announcing this solely to mess with Hugh Jackman.
Nurses, doctors, hospital workers of Reddit. What's your creepiest experience in a hospital? I used to work as an STNA in a nursing home. Worked third shift throughout university. During the night we turned half the lights off, so it was darker for the evening and didn't get a lot of light in the residents' rooms. We had one resident who was younger, 70s, and was mostly in for mental reasons. She had long, dark hair and was very thin. I was sitting at the nurse's station at the top of the hall and heard a call light go off. I stood up, looked down the dark hall, and on all fours, straight out of the ring, this resident was crawling up the hall toward me. The other STNA had forgotten to put the bed rail up, and the resident was very good at climbing out of bed. Needless to say, I needed some new breeches and my heart was racing a mile a minute. A 9-year-old girl came in once. Her parents had been finding her dolls hanging around the house with belts or strings tied around their necks. She went into a rage and held a knife to her own throat. They brought her to the hospital, and during her psych evaluation, she said she heard voices in her head telling her she was stupid and telling her to kill herself. She said she didn't want to, but she had to listen to the voices. I couldn't sleep for weeks.
What is the most surprising secret someone has revealed to you? A friend in college revealed that she was the product of incest between her mother and grandfather. From what I remember of the story, she was told by her mother that it was consensual, but they are no longer together, although her grandfather/father is still around and a part of the family. A professional in a higher-ranking position once told me he ate dog biscuits as treats when he was a kid. They aren't that bad, except the green ones. The green ones were gross. My best friend and his wife had been trying unsuccessfully for years to conceive a second child. Then one day his wife told us she had secretly been taking birth control the whole time, that their first child was more work than she thought it would be and she didn't want a second.
Strippers of Reddit. What really happens in a private VIP dance? I was a stripper in the past and I once had a man spend 2 champagne half hours, $500 half, for me to tell him about myself, what my future plans were, etc. etc. Also had a different dude pay me $50 to sniff my armpits, then paid me $50 more to go downstairs to the locker room, wipe off my deodorant, and let him smell them again. Had a dancer give me her faux recipe once. That was weird, and it wasn't a particularly good recipe. My friend stopped stripping after she had one guy come in and ask for her, and they went to one of the private rooms for a dance, and all he wanted her to do was let him rest his head in her lap. He paid to spend the entire night until closing just resting in her lap as she stroked his hair, and they talked about random stuff, but spent the most time on anime since they both enjoyed that. She said it took an emotional toll on her that she can't explain, but she could never go back.
Women, what are some questions you've always wanted to ask men, but were too embarrassed? Do you use that opening in your boxers/briefs to pee? Or do you just pull down the top of your boxers/briefs? That little opening just doesn't seem that useful. Someone probably already asked this, but is it hard/difficult to shave your balls? How often do you really cry? What makes you cry? When you use the toilet, does your weenie just hang into the toilet? Do you rest it on the seat? Do you ever get poop splash on your ween? What are some of your thoughts on girls making the first move? Can you feel our boobs when we hug? Is it true you really get random boners? What does it feel like to run with no underwear on? Does it just flop around? Does it hurt? Does the bouncing get you hard? How much does being punched in the balls hurt? Could 2 guys have a sword fight with their erect dongs? Asking for a friend? Do you wipe your dick after you pee? Seems kinda gross not to, but I heard that guys don't do that.
Women, what do you find most confusing about men? Their refusal to see a doctor, even if they have the means. Your leg has fallen off. 'Tis but a scratch. Scrolls through channels on TV. Sees movie. Does not know when it started. Has zero context about the plot. Watches the rest of the movie anyway. He uses my expensive shampoo to wash his whole body when there is a bar of soap right there. How I can tell my husband where something is, and he can look right at it and say, with certainty, it's not there. Why men rarely ask for further detail. Husband and friend make plans to have a games night, starting 5 p.m. at friend's place. That's all the info covered. Should we bring any games? It is at dinner time. Are we eating there? Are we meant to bring food? How many people are we feeding? Who is going to be there? Nothing. He knows nothing. Why is it that if I send you a message that has 3+ parts, you only respond to the least important part? If I'm like, hey, I saw our mutual friend while running errands. Let me know what you want for dinner, I'm about to go pick it up. And did you take out the trash? I get a response that says, oh yeah Dave, haven't seen him in a while.
How would society be different if nobody wore clothes? Well, I definitely wouldn't be able to find my keys. Public shower areas would be as common as public restrooms. High school would be messy. Middle school would be so much worse. College wouldn't change all that much. We would probably eradicate mosquitoes. Fashionable pubic haircuts would be more common. Oh no, I don't want to imagine my pubic hair with braids. I work in construction. My job would become considerably more dangerous. Sunscreen industry would be bigger than Amazon. Design for outdoor spaces would also prioritize shade more. I'd certainly reconsider letting my kids sit on Santa's lap at Christmas time. Boners wouldn't be a secret anymore.
What was the highest waste of money that you don't regret? I've been a fat guy all my life. Like, really fat. Dressing comfortably was always my preference because being stylish just isn't an option at my size. This was always a source of anxiety at any social event that required dressing up. When I realized I had 4 weddings of close friends all coming up within the year, I decided to bite the bullet and get some decent formal clothes. I spent $800 on a suit jacket, $250 on 2 pairs of dress pants, a little over $300 for 3 shirts and 3 silk ties that were between $70 and $100 each. I stood for all my measurements and had everything tailored to my exact specifications. Did a fitting and had a second round of alterations on the pants so they actually looked decent, even though I wore them under my gut. People were floored when I showed up to the first wedding. I received so many compliments and actual double takes. Being introduced to new people felt completely different. I felt impressive. Some of those weddings were the best times of my life, and it was due, in no small part, to how those clothes looked and made me feel. Some of those friends have big pictures from their weddings hanging on their walls, and I don't cringe in embarrassment when I see myself in them. Those clothes cost more than I had / have ever spent on clothing in any 10-year period, and they were worth every penny.
I am a horrible father. I managed to find me and my son a place to stay after being in a homeless shelter for 3 months. He keeps thanking me every chance he gets, and it breaks my heart. No kid should go through all that, and I don't deserve a pat on the back for providing the bare minimum for him. The last 2 years took everything from us, and the past couple of months have been really testing. I have been working every single day to save up for renting a place, and I still cannot believe that we are moving in. Spending Christmas at a shelter was so defeating, but my little man took it like a real champ. He never once asked for anything at all. I am beyond grateful that he was not taken away from me. His mom left us when he was 2, and he is the only thing that keeps me alive. I will move mountains to make sure that the rest of his childhood is the best.
Have you ever had a close friend cross a line in your relationship? If so, what happened? A close friend from college days asked if he could live with us for a few days while looking for employment in the area. Instead of a job search, he spent his days hanging around the house and taking advantage of our hospitality. He crossed the line when I came home early from work one day and caught him with his hands in my SO's bedroom drawers. He tried to get my GF at the time to break up with me so he could date her. Luckily she saw what he was doing. He and I were not friends for long after that. I was pretty torn up by that betrayal. Got him a job in my company so he could move to the city his girlfriend is. Then he started going after my position, friendship over. Don't work with friends.
Redditors who've walked in on your partner or so cheating. How did you react in that moment? This happened to my grandma. She walked in on her husband at the time in bed with her best friend. She told me she had a seat and waited for them to notice her. When they did, she just sat there and said, "Oh no. Go ahead and finish." She apparently was trying to make it as awkward and uncomfortable for them as possible. You know that look you get when you drop something delicious on the ground and you are debating on whether or not to pick it up and eat it anyways? Your eyes squint a little and your mouth tightens. Maybe you let out a slight humph. That describes it the best I can. Of course I was devastated on the inside, but I wasn't going to let anyone see that. Especially her.
Teachers, what's the weirdest thing a student has accidentally sent instead of TIE homework? I once received a submission from a student that had another student's name on it from the year before. They didn't even bother to update that during their plagiarism. A friend of mine accidentally put his electric bill in the middle of a long political science paper in college. The professor simply wrote, "I hope you paid this on time," with a couple question marks on it. Had a student plug in their USB drive to pull up a presentation. The guy opened the wrong folder and dozens of PN video icons were suddenly projected on the screen for the whole class to see. Now I cover the LCD until I can see what is going to be projected. I submitted a resume one time with the file name piece of ST resume. Forgot to change it after being frustrated with formatting for a few hours. Needless to say, I didn't get an interview.